Welcome to This Explainer. We've got a fascinating one for you today. We're setting out on this really grand journey, one that maps human existence all the way from its cosmic origins straight to the magnificent, epic timeline of your very own soul. We're going to explore the profound philosophy of faith, the boundaries of metaphysics, the incredible intersection of science and the Quranic worldview, and ultimately, what it truly means to be human. Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to cover philosophy versus divine wisdom, the boundary between the seen and the unseen, combining science and revelation, the Creator's eternal attributes, and finally, the soul's epic timeline. Part 1. Philosophy versus divine wisdom, the limits of pure reason. So when we try to figure out our place in the universe, we have to ask, how do we actually get true knowledge? On one hand, you've got pure philosophy, right? That relies totally on human reason and logical proof. But what happens when our brains just hit a wall? That's where divine wisdom, or Hikmah, comes in. Hikmah basically takes our logic and elevates it by guiding it with our innate nature, our fitra, and backing it up with divine revelation. You know, back in the day, a lot of early thinkers leaned super heavily on ancient Greek philosophy to make sense of the universe. But this framework argues that the systems built by guys like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, they actually have some pretty hard limits. To get the full big-picture reality, we kind of need to shift away from just ancient Greek thought and move toward direct Quranic wisdom. Basically, revelation gives us the crucial answers that human reason literally just can't reach on its own. Part 2. The seen and the unseen. The boundaries of human perception. Think about it. We're walking around in these physical bodies that have very distinct limits. We're basically standing right on the border between physics and metaphysics. On the physics side, the material world, you have everything we can observe with our five senses. And sure, we love to build amazing tools like telescopes and electron microscopes to help us see further. But here's the crazy thing. Those tools are just extending our physical sight. They are totally incapable of piercing into the metaphysical realm. I'm talking about things like angels, the afterlife, and the actual source of revelation. We call this unseen metaphysical realm Ghaib. These are realities that absolutely cannot be measured by any physical instrument we could ever build, but they are totally essential if you want a complete worldview. When you look at it this way, believing in the unseen isn't illogical at all. Actually, scratch that. It's the most logical thing you can do, precisely because our physical senses were designed with intentional, built-in limits from the very beginning. Part 3. Science and revelation combined. The two eyes of truth. Now, what's really interesting about this is how physical science and divine revelation are actually deeply complementary. They aren't fighting each other. Look at these direct comparisons. Science says the universe started with this massive expansion, the Big Bang, right? Well, the Quran describes the heavens spreading out. Modern physics talks about a big crunch where the universe collapses, and the Quran literally describes the heavens being rolled up like a written scroll. Even the incredibly specific stages of embryonic development we see under modern microscopes perfectly match the stages of human creation detailed in Revelation centuries ago. It's like this really brilliant two eyes analogy. If you only use the eye of science, sure, you see the physical world, but you completely miss the why behind it. If you only use the eye of revelation, you get the unseen, but you might miss the physical mechanics of the world right in front of you. You literally need both eyes for true depth perception. When you open both, contradictions just vanish, and the whole picture comes into perfect, crystal clear focus. Part 4. The Creator's eternal attributes beyond physical laws. Let's move on and see how this builds. Once we have both eyes open, our perspective shifts from this giant macroscopic universe to the ultimate reality itself, the divine. The Creator has eternal attributes like being all-seeing, which is Basir, and all-hearing, which is Sami. But here is the catch. We have to be so incredibly careful not to project our own human limitations onto those attributes. The Creator perceives all of reality completely free from any physical constraints. Think of it like this. For you and me to see anything, we literally depend on light waves bouncing off objects and hitting our retinas. To hear, we need acoustic waves vibrating inside our ears. But the Creator exists totally independent of the physical laws that He Himself authored. His sight doesn't need light waves. His hearing doesn't need sound waves. He operates completely 100% outside the physics of our universe. Part 5. The soul's epic timeline. The 5 stages of existence. Okay, so the crucial point is, now that we've talked about the vastness of the Creator, let's zoom all the way back into something incredibly personal, your own existence. Normally, we think of our lives as this 70 or 80-year block of time. We kind of just assume this brief window is the whole shebang. But compared to the massive, eternal timeline of a soul, those 80 years are nothing but a tiny, fleeting blip on the radar. The reality is, your soul's journey is this epic 5-stage continuum. Stage 1 was the realm of souls, or Alam-Er-Wa, where humanity was first created. Stage 2 was this kind of first sleep, a metaphysical cold storage, if you will. Stage 3, well, that's our current earthly life, this super brief physical testing phase. Stage 4 is barzakh, the intermediary phase in the grave. And finally, stage 5 is the eternal resurrection, the final reckoning and the permanent afterlife. Let's zoom in on phase 3 for a second, since that's where we are right now. Physically, it starts in the mother's womb with biological embryo development. But then this absolutely mind-blowing intersection happens. At exactly 120 days of development, the metaphysical soul is breathed right into that physical biology. The unseen literally merges with the seen. And birth? That's not the beginning of you. That just marks the start of your earthly exam. It all boils down to this incredibly powerful idea. Earthly life is merely a 3-hour examination hall for an eternal existence. Seriously, think about that. When you look at the 70 or 80 years we spend here through the lens of a massive 5-stage eternal timeline, it completely reframes everything. Our daily struggles, our wealth, our pain, our wins. This life isn't the final destination. It's just a temporary testing ground. We've covered some serious ground today, from the limits of ancient philosophy to the totally boundless nature of the Creator, all the way down to the realization that your soul is on an eternal journey. So I want to leave you with this one thought to really chew on. If your current life is just a brief, temporary exam meant to figure out your eternal standing, how are you spending your time? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to keep digging into this incredible worldview. See you next time.